Hey everybody, Dr. Pedram Shojai back with Dr. Sara Gottfried at the Health Bridge. Hi Sara.
Hi Pedram. Hi everybody.
Hey, so we got a fun guest with us today. James Swanwick has got a very interesting story, and he's just one of these dynamic personalities that I love hanging out with and talking to, because he's down there in the trenches doing it. He's got this wonderful piece that we're going to be able to kind of riff with him on, and he's just a lot of fun. James, welcome to the show.
Pedram, Sara, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Great to have you. So you, my friend, used to drink.
It's James, and I'm an alcoholic. That's what it sounds like, isn't it? You know, it's funny. I used to drink. I was a very good, accomplished binge drinker. I'm Australian, as your listener can probably tell from my funny accent. And I used to drink, and I was never an alcoholic, but I used to turn it on weekends and drink pretty heavily and have a good time, and never did anything crazy. It's not true that I was never arrested. I was arrested once at the Super Bowl. I was trying to get into the Maxim party on a Friday night, and a police officer told me to move back, and I was still trying to get into the party, and I ignored him, and the next thing I know, I'm being handcuffed and spent the night in Tampa prison. That was fun. But I don't blame it on my drinking, certainly. I'd had a few beers that night, but certainly nothing crazy. But yeah, I was just a good, solid Australian drinker, and I didn't really drink that much during the week. It was only on weekends, and about 5 years ago, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to quit.
Now, I have to ask James, I know we have a lot of listeners who maybe have a sticky relationship with alcohol, or they feel like they need to cut down and it's hard for them. I feel like I want to mine this a little bit more, because I feel like there's something happened 5 years ago.
Well,
Can we dive deeper?
Well, 2 years before 5 years ago, I guess you could say, six or 7 years ago, I just decided to take a 30-day break. So it was just like a 30-day challenge, and I did it in March, because in January I would go to the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah, and I'd party for a week, and that was so much fun. And then 2 weeks later it was the Super Bowl, which always happens on the first Sunday in February, and that was like 3 or 4 days of partying. And then by that stage I was like, man, I want to take a break, And so on March, 2 years in a row, I took 30 days off. And bear in mind, I was playing for the Los Angeles Rugby Club at this time, and rugby guys drink like there's no tomorrow. And so it was a big Herculean task for me to quit drinking, given that I was in that culture. But I'll tell you what happened. So I did the 30 days, and at the end of it, I was like, wow, my skin is better. I've lost about 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds. I'm sleeping better. I'm more agreeable of a person. By that I mean I'm not as irritated by things. And I was just like, this is pretty good. And then at the end of March and start of April, I just went back to drinking again. And then I did that a couple of years. But to answer your initial question, I was at the South by Southwest Festival in Austin, Texas, almost 5 years ago. And I had a couple drinks that night. It was a Bombay Sapphire gin and a splash of tonic and some lime juice, just a couple of drinks. It wasn't anything crazy. But I woke up the next morning with a horrific hangover. And I remember I got out of my hotel, and it was on the outskirts of Austin, and I went to an international house of pancakes and for like a hungover breakfast. And I sat there and I was looking at the menu, and in the International House of Pancakes, they have big bright colored photographs of the food that you're about to eat. And it just looked horrendous. Like these colors were just coming out and just hitting my brain. It was banging against my brain like the hangover. I was looking over these two huge fat American people who were like 400 pounds each, and they're scoffing down this food. And I'm in this crappy hotel on the outskirts of Austin, and I'm just like, this sucks. Like I'm just gonna like see if I can beat my previous record of 30 days and see if I can do 35 days. And I just began, and then I got to 35 days, and I went, I'll see if I can get to 40. Then I got to 40, and I said, what if I can do 50? Then I got to 50, and I was like, damn, I feel amazing. I got all this energy. I'm running around. I'm doing these crazy things. And then I just kept going, and then I got to 6 months. Then I said, I'm going to go to a year. I got to a year. I went back to South by Southwest in Austin. I went to get a Budweiser Light to have a celebratory beer, and I put it up to my mouth. It smelled really good, and I went, you know what? I'll just keep on going. And that was almost 5 years ago.
Fantastic. So how different do you feel? Like what started to eke out, and then what started to kind of gain momentum to the point where you're like, hey, maybe I should keep going in this direction?
Yeah, what I found is that besides the physical changes that happened, and by physical I mean my skin actually noticeably got better, and people started to say things like, oh, wow, have you been working out? And the truth is I hadn't really been working out, but they're like, oh, you look different, you look really good. And I'm like, oh, okay, righto. Again, I lost that little bit of stubborn belly fat that I was holding back then. Again, I was sleeping better. But I'll tell you what was the most remarkable thing, Pedram. The quality of my relationships improved dramatically. Now, it was a subtle thing at first, but after about 2 months, 3 months, I realized that my social group had changed. Previously, I was hanging out with people who liked to go out midweek and drink and maybe party and stay out late. Now, when I stopped the drinking, I found I was hanging out with a type of person who didn't necessarily like doing that. And the conversations that I was having with those people were just conversations that I wasn't used to having. It was all positive. It was all about things to do with, mindsets and giving and generosity and sort of deeper things, deeper conversations rather than just frivolous conversations. And about 3 months into it, I realized, like, wow, I'm getting invited to these cool little dinner parties and I'm having really great introspective conversations. And the type of person that I'm hanging out with now wants to go and do yoga on Santa Monica on a Saturday. And the type of person that I'm hanging out with now is encouraging me to go and do a half marathon run in Los Angeles in a couple months. And the type of person I'm hanging out with now is telling me about how I should go and do a 10-day silent meditation called Vipassana, which I didn't do until 3 years later. But the relationships really started to change in my life. That was the big thing that I noticed.
I love how you connected the alcohol to this upgrade in the quality of your relationships. You know, I think if we're frank about it, alcohol is one of the worst toxins for the body. I mean, it's really the truth. And as you get older, your liver just doesn't handle it quite as well as it did maybe in your 20s. I feel like, you know, everybody's a little different in that regard. Maybe it's at age 40 that you just don't have the blood flow to your liver that you used to have. It also shrinks the brain. I mean, Daniel Amen talks about this a lot. You know, it's just really plain to see scientifically that the people who consume alcohol, they've got smaller brains than the people that don't, which sort of fits with the story that you're telling us, James. And I have to just say to our listeners, I've had James over for a dinner party, and he is just like totally handsome. My husband also had a boy crush on you, so I feel like I can say that. And and we had a great time, and you didn't drink, in fact. This was a year or 2 years ago. So I just want to validate all these points that you're making. James, I love that you are making this point about your connections and how they got upgraded by stepping away from the alcohol. I think we don't talk enough about this. I mean, there's sort of the biological reasons against drinking, you know, the way it shrinks your brain. And after the age of 40, for instance, you just can't tolerate alcohol the way that you used to. It gives you a hangover at a much lower dose because there's not as much blood flow to your liver. The enzymes don't work as efficiently, blah, blah, blah. But I want to come back to connection because I feel like really isn't ultimately all about connection. I feel like the way that your relationships got upgraded is a really interesting point and one that I want to dwell in a little bit more. So it sounds like there was a shift in the kind of people that you were having conversations with, the way that you were spending your time. And I just want to honor this piece about you because you've been to my house for a dinner party. You didn't drink at all. We loved hanging out with you. In fact, it was maybe a first place tie between my husband and me, who had more of a boy crush on you. And I think
I prefer if you had a crush on me, Sarah.
No offense, David.
Yeah, no offense, David. He's okay with that. So if you look at spiritually enlightened beings and you sort of ask the question, how many of them drink? Not many, right? In fact, I can't even think of any who drink. So, Pedram, maybe you can think of somebody. Well, yourself, for instance, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had years in college where I was completely just drinking water and hanging out with all these people that just become completely out of their minds, ridiculous, walking around stumbling into people trying to kiss them. And I'm sitting here thinking, God, this is is this how dumb I would get when I was drinking, right? And so, you know, and I got really good at cleaning up the ladies, being the sober guy, because it turns out they don't want the drunk idiot either, right? And so, but I watched it, and then I've been flirting with it because it's easy for me to, like, you know, go there, and you know, James and I would, you know, set a building on fire pretty easily, but I was having the same thing where it just freaking hurt, man. It wasn't worth it, and it wasn't worth the cost the next day. It wasn't worth the dehydration. It wasn't worth stepping out of your mission, right? So I'll have a cocktail here and there, but like, it's not. I don't think it's my drug of choice for enlightenment or, you know, the betterment of humanity. It's just a social lubricant and fun once in a while.
Yeah, most people ask me, I talk about this a lot actually on my podcast, the James Swanwick Show, and I always get people asking me these questions like, oh, can you still go out and have a good time when you're not drinking? Or how can you talk to women as a single guy when you're not drinking? Or like, oh, I would be so bored if I had to go out until like 2 o'clock in the morning with a whole bunch of drunk people. And that's the number, like those kind of questions are the questions I get asked the most. Here's the thing. After a week or so of not drinking, the first couple of weeks, it's a little bit awkward because it's something new, right? You're going out there, other people are drinking, you're not, you're sipping water, you're kind of like, oh, this is weird. This is like a foreign environment to me. What's going on? As soon as you get over that first week or second week, that mental obstacle, then you start to realize, in actual fact, you're like the life of the party. I mean, you're literally like, everyone else is getting drunk, and you might think that they're like the life of the party because they're getting drunk and they're getting a little bit more vocal or they're dancing or whatever. But you've got so much energy and you have such clarity of thought that you're actually just feeding off the fact that you have that energy and that the other people are drunk and being silly and goofy. And that enables you to be silly and funny and goofy, but completely sober. And so I've had a lot of situations over the years where people will say to me the night after, it's like, wow, you were so drunk last night. And I'm like, I don't drink. And they're like, what? But you were going crazy. You were like dancing. What are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I don't drink. And their jaws just drop to the floor. They can't believe it. So it's an absolute fallacy to think that if you don't drink, you go out and you can't have a good time. I mean, I was rocking it with Sara and her daughter playing, what were we playing? The DJ song where we had to dance to Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Baby.
Totally. Oh, and you did rock it. Let me just say, the man had not an ounce of alcohol, and I think you had like a grand slam in terms of winning that game.
What was the game? What was the game?
It's called Just Dance. It's called Just Dance on the Wii. Yeah. We have like 4 versions of it because we love it so much in our family. Pedram, did we force you to also do Just Dance when you came to visit?
I would have remembered that.
Next time, my brother.
But I mean, you know, like I said, I was at Sarah's house and we were hanging out and you guys were drinking wine and everything, and I was just drinking water or soda or whatever it was. And then later on, we were mucking around. We were playing this game which requires you to dance and have a good time. And I was just loving it, you know. And I was just feeding off the energy of everyone there. So it's you know, you can like people, like I said, they always ask me, how do you have a good time when you're not drinking? And it's like, it's so easy, you know. You just get over the first week, get over the second week of the awkwardness of changing it and creating that habit, and then soon you're off to the races, and then it just becomes so easy. And this is what I always tell myself, guys. It's always this. The positive benefits that I get from not drinking far outweigh the immediate pleasures that I get from drinking. So whenever I'm even thinking about, oh, I should have a drink or whatever, I'm like, this glass of wine is going to feel terrific in the moment. This gin and tonic is going to feel great. I'd love to have a beer right now. But you know what? That's just going to be a temporary enjoyment. I'd rather have all these long-term benefits that I get from just not drinking at all.
There's something else in there that I'd like to tease out just quickly, because I think it dives into the American psyche, in that the people that you're talking to weren't able to give themselves permission to have fun and be goofy. And so you hand that over, almost like idolatry, you hand that over to this thing called alcohol, and you're like, oh my God, I was so drunk last night, I was dancing on the table. Whereas a person that's just actually liberated just jumps up and dances on the table. And so there's something about the puritanical nature of American culture that really needs some sort of excuse to step out of your storefront self and like be a free or different person. Whereas in a lot of cultures that doesn't even exist. And I mean, I'd love to tease that out in terms of like what it's like in Oz, and then just what your perception of that is being here in America and having been a drinker and now a non-drinker, watching people with how they give themselves permission to have fun.
Yeah, well, in Australia, the culture is very much, you know, drink heavily. And, you know, of course, if I go back into Australia now, they'll arrest me on the spot for crimes. You know, I'm no longer the macho Australian male because I don't smash a six-pack of beer every night, you know. So, you know, I mean, I grew up in that culture. It's like you got to have beers to have a good time. You got to go out and get drunk. It's like a rite of passage to get blind drunk and do something crazy and ridiculous and go and watch the cricket or go to the rugby and drink beer all day as you're sitting in the sun for 6 hours. And so I grew up in that culture. Now I came over here to the States. And so let me just go back 1 second. Also in Australia, it's not really the thing to do to kind of like talk about your feelings that much as an Australian man, you know, like to really like get down and go, this is what I'm thinking, this is what's troubling me right now. So I came over to America in 2003, and all of a sudden, all these American people are talking about their feelings the whole time. I'm like seeing on Oprah Winfrey, it's like, oh, this happened and this awful thing happened, and guys are talking about their feelings. I'm like, what is going on here? Plus, all the guys that I met are wanting to like bro hug me and like come up and give me like the hug. And in Australia, it's just like you meet someone and you shake their hand, and when you see them again, you shake their hand. There's no hugging going on. So I'm hanging out in Hermosa Beach, California in 2003. I'm being introduced to guys, and I'm always like, don't touch me, because they're all like, hey, man, how you doing? And then I don't know whether I'm supposed to fist pump or come in from the side, or whether I'm supposed to shake hands and then fist pump, or whether I'm supposed to do the half hug or the pat on the back. I mean, it's a mess. I mean, it was so confusing. And then when you try to do it the right way, the other person does it the wrong way. So you go with the fist pump and he comes with the hug, and then it's like, oh, sorry.
I just punched you in the face.
It's just terrible. So I'm like, man, this American culture is going to take a little bit of getting used to. To answer your initial question, in Australia, I couldn't really express myself, talk about my feelings, okay? And when I moved to America, it was like everyone's talking about their feelings, so I'm like, I went to like kicking and screaming. Fast forward 10 years later to 2 weeks ago, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar in Dallas, Texas, and I must have hugged 500 people. I must have high-fived 1,000 people. I'm talking to the person to the right of me. I'm telling them about my greatest insecurities. I'm talking to the person to the left of me. I'm talking about like everything that I'm scared of in life and why I think I'm a failure in this particular area of life. And then I'm hugging more people. And it's like my Australian friends still look at me and they're like, what are you doing? Don't be like those crazy Americans. Stop it. You're in a cult. Come back home. They're kind of like that. But I got to tell you, I think that there's pros and benefits of being that vulnerable and putting myself out there, and there are also pros and benefits of not putting yourself out there that much. In terms of the drinking, what I would say is this. When I get up and I have a good time and I'm partying and I'm dancing and I'm doing crazy things and I'm not drinking, other people see that, and that gives them an excuse to be able to get up and party and have a good time and relax into their own self. And so I think that's kind of like the biggest cultural change. Did that answer your question, Pedram? I kind of went a bit off topic.
No, I love it because, you know, it's really, we did a show with this guy named Michael Lovitch, and he was talking about how, you know, people need permission to heal. And now it seems like you are the guy that's giving permission to people to be themselves and have fun. Yeah. By being kind of the wild and free social lubricant dude.
Yes.
And it doesn't require the alcohol.
No, it doesn't. No. My party trick is to dance like a kangaroo on the dance floor. So when I was
need a video of that.
When I was in Colombia, it was a big hit. I was in like some bars or clubs of Bogota, Colombia, and I was practicing my Spanish. And I would say in very bad Spanish to a Colombian woman, I said, "Puedo bailar como un kangaroo." I can dance like a kangaroo, and they're kind of looking at me, going, "What?" And then I go un, dos, tres, and then I literally start going, and I jump up and down like a kangaroo and do like the kangaroo hop. And they would just freak out. They always think it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. They'd grab their girlfriends, and then their guy friends would be watching, and then they'd all start doing this kangaroo hop. And before you know it, you knew it. Like in the space of one little dance, I was like known by half of the people in that particular bar because they're all doing this damn kangaroo hop. So it's the same concept, really. If you just let other people know that it's okay to relax and just have a good time, and just to be free, it gives other people the permission to relax and to be free. Because a lot of times people are just standing around in like this societal prison, if you like, as to what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, how you should act, how you shouldn't act. But if you just let go and just relax, have fun, it just encourages everyone around you to relax and have fun as well.
I totally love this. I mean, James, you're talking about kind of a level of playfulness and even silliness that you've become very comfortable with, and you help to bring out in others. And just like listening to you, seeing you, if you're listening on the audio, you didn't get to see the kangaroo dance that that James just did, which you got to see it. It's really good. But it's, I could sort of feel like this huge smile on my face. I could feel my oxytocin getting better. Just as you were talking about that, like there's a level of kind of grasping and, oh, I need a drink to transition that you're breaking through. It's very disruptive, and I totally appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those kind words. And look, I know it's not easy as well. Like the listener's probably thinking, oh, well, that's easier said than done. And, it is easier said than done. It's when you first do it, you kind of like, oh, I need this alcohol, I need this thing to sort of just relax and just to feel like it's okay. And you almost like feel like you're reliant on it, okay? But again, after a week or two, when you've just got rid of that and you've broken free of the shackles, so to speak, you just have to push yourself. You have to push yourself to just let go and to have fun and to do it without the alcohol. And trust me, once you break through, once you do it just once, it's easy to do it a second time, a third time. I mean, it's like the old analogy, it's like riding a bicycle, right? It's like anything. You get on a horse, it kicks you off, you get back on. It's not easy because as human beings, we've created these mental obstacles for ourselves the whole time, right? It's awkward. People are watching us. I don't know how to do it. This is foreign to me. It's not easy. But you don't want it to be easy because this is where the dreams happen on the other side of easy. So just push through, make it happen. And I'm telling you, people are going to love you. You're going to love yourself, and you're going to feel so much freer because of it.
There's a couple things in there that are really juicy that I want to kind of tease out quickly. One is this, this social lubricant of alcohol and this thing that we've given ourselves permission to use in some sort of ritual of unfoldment so that we can be someone else or be free and be that other person, right? And so what I'm hearing here is a wonderful hack, right? Is like you take this poisonous substance that your body hates and using it as an excuse to be this other person that you want to be, but you can't do so with the mask of who you think you need to be for the world. So now it's like, and you see this a lot in the Japanese culture where, they'll just go get like destroyed with their bosses and be like, whatever happened last night didn't happen. And they go back to like their really stiff outer edifice, right? So improv, comedy, drama, there's a million ways to hack into that. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't even know where to start, there's a million ways to kind of break apart that personality and let you play and be playful there. There's also this other thing that I want to just kind of bring back quickly, because as a guy, I hear this and there's a lot of that kind of machismo stuff, this tough guy stuff that goes with alcohol. Like, come on, drink, bitch. What are you doing? What are you going to, hang out with the girls? Get over here and drink with us. And there's this real kind of culture of self-annihilation that has tied to it this identity of masculinity. And we recently had this with a friend who, he actually, when he wants to get to know people, he like tries to drink them under the table to see who their real personality is. And it's just like, who's the bigger man and all this kind of stuff. And it's prevalent. right? This cowboy mentality, this Australian kind of tough guy mentality. You see it everywhere. We had it in South Africa when we were filming our movies. These guys would drink themselves into stupor every night because that's what men did. And so I would love, you know, because you're a guy. You dig chicks and the chicks dig you back and all that. I would love to like unhinge that for all of our guy listeners right now. Right? To be like, look, this doesn't need to prove your masculinity to poison yourself. Like, how do we liberate the guys from that nonsense?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give single guys the biggest motivation. Chicks dig it when you tell them that you don't drink. I mean, if you're a single guy, you're listening to this. I was amazed. I mean, I would have thought that women, if I told them I don't drink, would think that I was an alcoholic previously, which again I wasn't. But when I told them that, they were actually like, oh, they were super impressed. They were like, this guy's got his, you know what, together. You know what I mean? This guy's self-disciplined. This guy is strong enough to listen and take all this societal pressure from his guy mates to drink. But he's still strong enough to say, no, I'm not going to, because this is who I am, and I just choose not to. That's a strong man. That's a man who from an evolutionary psychological point of view is probably going to take care of her, who's probably going to be able to protect her and her offspring. So, guys, if you are listening to this, tell the woman that you don't drink and tell her that you do it for health reasons and that you just decided not to drink, and she's going to be like, I love this guy, you know? I mean, I was going to go into something explicit there, but I just stopped myself because this is probably a PG-13 podcast. But you get the idea, right? So far from women thinking that I was some crazy alcoholic and they wanted to steer clear of me, my romantic relationships actually improved. The quality of my romantic relationships improved. I was attracting a far better, a far more positive type of woman into my life, and I was enjoying a more connected type of relationship. Okay, if you're a woman or a guy who's taken, and you know we're talking about this male machismo kind of idea, it's infantile to think that you need to drink to be part of the pack. And I know this because I played for the Los Angeles Rugby Club for 3 years, wonderful guys, but like we would finish a game and we'd go down to the Manhattan Beach Sharkies on one block back from the ocean there. And at the end of the game, if you were the best player, you'd get a big jug of beer and you'd have to scull this big jug of beer. And I'm Australian, so I played rugby 20 years and I'm playing up against American guys who haven't played that long. So I won the Man of the Match award more so than some of my teammates. So when I was drinking, I had to literally do this nonsense, right, by sculling this beer. And it was all right. It was fun. It was a good time. But when I quit drinking and they're like, yeah, James, you won the Man of the Match. Here you go, drink the beer. I'm like, no. And I would just wave my hand and say, no, I'm not doing it. They're all like, pussy, come on, drink. And I was like, I point to my head and I go, nah. Too strong in mind. And they'd all like collectively go, oh, boo. And then they'd come over and give me a hug, and that was the end of it. And then it would just go back to normal. So, you know, a lot of it's just bravado. A lot of it's just a big kind of like play. It's like a big production. Are you really going to get ostracized from the group if you say no? No. Those guys still loved me. I still loved them. We hugged it out, you know. I would have preferred it if we'd just shaken hands. But you know what I mean? Like it's like you don't need alcohol to have a good time. You know, you don't need alcohol to be part of the group. You know, repel the peer group pressure. It's okay. Everything's going to be all right. People are going to respect you. They might give you a little bit of crap initially and mock you and make fun of you. Big deal. After that, everything is fine.
Love it. I totally love it. I mean, this is a really empowering message, and you're so colorful in the way that you describe it. I can just, I'm right there with you at the bar with the rugby players, and how easily it blew over, right? I just think that's an important point. You don't need the alcohol. Really take a look at what kind of a role it's playing in your life. Could your life be richer?
And when you walk in with a smoking hot blonde who's 6 foot tall the next week, and they know that you don't drink, they're like, oh, maybe there's something going on with this.
Totally.
I should quit drinking too.
Yeah, well, right. It's there's this tendency to be like, oh, you're a bitch, right? But on the flip side of that, they're like, well, he was actually the man of the match, and he's getting the hot chicks. So like, he's actually like captain of the caveman team. It changes everything.
It's all deadly, Pedram. It's all deadly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But like even if we're just joking aside about the women thing, I mean, really, honestly, if you can just get through the first couple of weeks where people are just mocking you, making fun of you, or they're trying to slip a little bit of vodka in your soda and all that kind of stuff, once people realize that you don't drink, they respect you. They respect you for it. Once they've figured out that you're not a recovering alcoholic, or even if you are, they respect you. They respect the decision. They might have a little playful joke with you or whatever, but then they start looking at you almost like a role model. Now, none of my guy friends will ever say to me, oh, I look at you as a role model, because guys don't do that. But you can see it in their eyes, like they pick up on those little subtle things. And if I have got a great relationship with someone and I don't drink and I'm having a great time, I'm loving my life and I'm dancing like a kangaroo on a dance floor and people are like liking me and they're feeding off my energy, it's like, if you're a guy, how can you make fun of that person? How can you criticize that person?
There's this famous story of Ram Dass when he went to India, and it was like in the middle of the 60s or 70s, and he went to some famous Swami, and he's like, talking about meditation, and they go outside, and he's like, hey man, you really want to try something powerful, try this, and he gives him a tab of acid. And the guy just takes it and puts it in his mouth, and they're sitting there meditating, and the Western dude is just tripping balls, and he's just like, my God. And he turns around and he's like, isn't this stuff amazing? And the Swami just looks at him, he's like, well, you don't feel this all the time? What's the big deal, you idiot? Right? And it's kind of that, right? It's like, it's idolatry in a lot of ways. Like, you're giving all this power to this poisonous substance that has nothing to do with your freedom.
Here's a little interesting hack, Pedram. I know you like hacks. A lot of people, when they give up something, they go, oh, I'm going to reward myself with the thing at the end of the time that they've resisted. For example, people who have a one-day cheat day, right? So they'll eat perfectly for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, they'll have the cheat day where they'll eat McDonald's and pizza and fries and everything like that. And they look at the cheat day as the reward, as the prize, as like, that's the reward for all the hard work that I've done. But what I've done is switch it around. My reward is the drinking water with a splash of lime. My reward is the breathing only the fresh air and not smoking cigarettes. Because I used to smoke cigarettes back in the day. I smoked cigarettes for 10 years. And now it's like, my reward is only breathing fresh air. My reward is the exercise. My reward is waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning with the sun shining, not hungover, feeling amazing after a great night's sleep, going out exercising and feeling endorphins for the rest of the day. And that reward is almost 7 days a week. So I choose to enjoy the reward for almost the entire week, rather than just like feel like this is a struggle, I've got to stop this, I can't drink the alcohol, I've just got to get through to Sunday where I can have a couple glasses of wine. Now I've got the couple glasses of wine and now I can drink. No, that's not it. The reward is ongoing. It's like the habit of breathing fresh air, of doing regular exercise, of being healthy, of having great relationships, of making good choices all the time. That's the reward.
James Swanwick, this has been so powerful. The reframe that you've provided around alcohol and how you can still have just so much fun without the sauce. I really appreciate this reframe. For people who want to learn more about you, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, I have a podcast in iTunes called The James Swanwick Show. And then you can also reach me at my website, which is jamesswanwick.com. I will spell it because it's a funny spelling, Sarah, as you know. James, that's the easy part, and then Swanwick. So it's spelled Swanwick, even though it's pronounced Swanwick. So yeah, get me on my podcast, The James Swanwick Show, or at jamesswanwick.com.
Fantastic, man! What a fun show we just had. We'd love to keep in touch with you. You're an awesome guy, and let's go drink some water and go dancing at some point, all of us.
I'm gonna work on my kangaroo dance.
Kangaroo dance right now, Pigeon. Do it. I want to see it. Go. I got it. Thank you so much for having me, guys. You guys rock. I love that. I love that kangaroo dance.
Thanks so much.
Roll.
All right, guys, let us know. Facebook.com/thehealthbridge. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.